Praise God.
And if you belong to Christ, who holds the power and the healing abilities, that same power and healing abilities belong to you too. You too also have self-healing abilities and that same power that Christ brought you. Isn't that nice? You should be glad to answer that.
To make a change, because right away, they say, well, I gotta change, right? I gotta make this transformation in my life, right? Exactly how long it's gonna take, because that could be a long process. That process can.
Marcus Hart Transform You Radio Show. The only radio show where you can make real results and start living in your purpose. Visit MarcusHartEnterprises.com. MarcusHartEnterprises.com.
We are back. And can I get a hey now for all of my people out there? It is very awesome to be here and to be able to just be, connecting with you guys. We have an awesome treat today, a very awesome treat today. I am just, I'm shaking in my boots. I'm almost getting ready to be nervous here because our guest today is all the way from the United Kingdom, UK, folks. You are going to love this. I am just thrilled. And just for many of you who still don't know who I am, after all this time, even though this is just about the sixth interview of this year, I am Mr. Dr. Marcus Hart. I am the founder and host of Transform You Live Show, live media broadcasting network. For more information about that, visit the website at transformubroadcast.com. That's transformubroadcast.com. This is Wisdom Wednesday. We call this Wisdom Wednesdays. Why? Because I have seen a bunch of hashtags. So the hashtags are pretty popular, and, we decided to just join in all of the fun and title our Wednesday interviews Wisdom Wednesday as well. And that's that makes me a bit tongue-tied trying to say all those W's. For those who already know, sometimes I always am glad to admit that I am very imperfect. Very imperfect when it comes to speech. Very imperfect just being very imperfect. And that's okay, because that means there's learning experience. That means there's transformation to be made. Daily, moment by moment, second by second. Or should I say moment by moment, because moment by moment sounds faster than second by second. Well, whatever the case may be. But we have an awesome show. We have some more interviews coming up the rest of this week, too. So make sure you stay locked, stay tuned in. And once again, if you haven't already, join the community of all the world's leading experts at transformubroadcast.com. That's transformubroadcast.com, the only place where real transformation happens, because we are restoring the power as well as the energy of all of our community members so that they can make transformation and live the best possible life and be the best possible them. Other news, there's not really much going on. But here in the United States, the Super Tuesday election was held yesterday, and the results are rolling out. And from what I hear, Hillary Clinton is the front runner for the Democrats, and then Donald Trump has taken over and won quite a bit of the delegates for the Republican Party. Okay. So we are going to get the party going. My guest today, she is online. She is ready. As far as I know, her name is Miss Gabriella Guglielminotti. I'm gonna get this wrong. I'm gonna have to have her correct me. But Miss Gabriella is an author, speaker, visionary, and female cycle consultant who helps women gain confidence, authority, and fulfillment in their lives by knowing better their body, of course. She also helps them to make their female cycle their best friend, and to also help in couples improve their relationships. This allows them to find a more satisfying way to communicate and have better intimacy. Boy, do we need that. That is also a very big part of just empowerment back to the people, as well as just improving, lifestyle, and that's what we want to do. We want to enhance lifestyle. So, without further ado, let's hear it for Gabriella. Are you there with us?
Yes, Marcus. Thank you.
And can you just pronounce your full name for us, Gabriella? Because I was going to get it wrong, so I just stopped myself.
Okay, my full name is Gabriella Guglielminotti Trivel. I'm originally from Italy, but I've been living in the UK for almost 18 years now.
Wow. Okay, so you moved to UK from Italy, and how long ago was that?
I moved to London from Turin in Italy at the end of May 1997.
Awesome. And, they heard a little spiel about, who you are from me, but in your own words, can you just, share with us a little bit about, who you are and what it is you exactly do?
Okay. A few years ago, and precisely 7 years ago, I became aware what I'm here for. I had a ha-ha moment, and during a workshop about the mesocycle, and I realized that this was maybe the little bit that was missing in my puzzle, that it wouldn't allow me or hadn't allowed me to see the full picture of it. I've been into personal development for a long time, actually since my early 20s. So, I attended conferences, read books, done workshops for a long time. And I kind of came across with people like Tony Robbins. It should be known in the States, quite a big name, and others, like T. Harvecker is another one I trained with. So, but anyway, as a woman, I was still feeling there was something missing until in 2009, and what happened was I came across a psychotherapist called Alexandra Pope, and this lady had developed a body of work around the menstruation, the female cycle, and for most of her life. And I went to her workshop. And that day for me was like kind of an opening. I realized why I was feeling the way I felt all my life, certain times of the month, and why there was something in me that I couldn't pin it down, etc. And so also at the same time, I also realized that for many women out there, something that seems to be a natural feature of women, the mesocycle, it can be a very painful and disturbing experience that happens every month.
Yes.
So I realized that I felt the pain of other women in the same room where I was that day, and I really felt for them. And at the same time, I felt also some grieving in me, because I realized if I had been passed on this information, which is very simple and basic, but it would have allowed me to develop and to unfold as a woman in a very different way. Definitely with more inner authority, with more clear mind at times, going through life, sometimes can be very handy. And so I realized that I had to do something to spread the message. And so since 2010, I've been doing my best every day to find a way to reach out to women.
Wow, very powerful. I definitely, respect what you're doing. And, most people will look at this and, and laugh at you. Have you gotten that type of reaction before where, people didn't really, take it as serious?
Well, I assume that not only in UK, but also in the States, it's still a bit of a taboo subject. It's not something that would be considered as an acceptable dinner party conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think these days even sex has become more kind of okay as a subject to talk about. But menstruation is still something which is kind of, is the black sheep of the family. So I think it's time to start a new conversation. And also, it's important for both men and women. For women, because if we are not connected with our body and what happens to it every month, even if we are not in pain, let's suppose, but we are not making the most out of the wonderful chariot that nature gave us, right? So
exactly.
We don't use it in the right way. And for men, it is important because all men have women in their lives, and knowing more about it allows men to be better sons, partner, friends, husbands, and you name it, colleagues. We live together. So, and besides, of course, if it wasn't for a woman menstruating, nobody would be alive, right?
Right, exactly.
So I think it's time to dismantle the taboo. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. And, we will find that, the women population is, greater than the men population anyways. And, and you're right, there's a lot of, of us men that, either have stayed with women or have important women in our lives. With that said, how can we begin to, have a serious conversation? What premise should we start with?
Well, I think, but for instance, by becoming aware that on the planet for a few thousands of years we have been living with under the rule of patriarchy, meaning the rule of man, and which is opposed to matriarchy, the rule of women. But I'm not saying this to say, patriarchy is bad, matriarchy is good. Absolutely not. It's time for finding a middle way where women are appreciated as much as men in their diversity, because we are different for a reason. Nature does know better than us, right? So if we have been made in a certain way, it's because we are conducive to be good in this way. So I think we can start by simply considering ourselves, either we are man or woman, as human beings, and with some curiosity, because curiosity is a very fundamental tool to be able to discover more in life, right? And not accept, for instance, not accepting, those preconcepts or those beliefs that they might have been handed over for thousands of years, but they are not very conducive and they are not very human, So, for instance, if something comes to mind on the spot right now, which is might be laughable, but for instance, the way of considering women the weakest sex, I find it very laughable. But then, so descriptive of the fact that, in a way, women are still looked upon these days as the weakest link, the weakest sex, the weakest part of it all. I don't think if men had to give birth, we would have gone very far. So definitely women are stronger than men.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you. Some of the things that you guys, go through, especially month in and month out, and then being able to, push a 10-pound baby. I was a 10-pound baby, into life. And carry that child for 9 months, that definitely, is evidence of, great emotional strength, great physical strength. It's real important that we give respect due to women that they're not due. So a question I would have, you mentioned, that it's that the menstrual cycle can be quite frightening for many people, and would you say is that most due to the emotional part of it, or just the?
I think it's based. It's a result of misconceptions and ignorance. But I would like to reframe it for you and for the listeners too. Maybe it will reframe the whole thing, right? Let's conceive a new perspective on the subject menstruation or female cycle. During the month, a woman goes through 4 seasons. I mean, the season mean really like the real season, right? That we have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And I use this word because I think everybody has experience in their life seasons, right? And we know how they are. And we know also that in different seasons we feel in different ways because the temperature is different, the climate is different, etc. So we are more prone to do certain activities rather than others. So let's just go through this year journey. So a woman enters the spring season when she has finished bleeding, and in the first week of her cycle, basically, in the premenstrual phase. And during this week, she is very active, very outward, so she feels like doing things in more out there, outdoors, at work, career-wise. All these things are very appealing for her. So she's quite adventurous, she's quite social, very focused. In the second week, during her summer, which is the ovulation time of a woman, she becomes even more social. And she's the person who always says yes to everything because she is very open and is like physically a woman can conceive during that week. So obviously interaction with other people is important. It's just the nature of our physicality that brings us to be very, cheerful, open. Everything which is involves other people is interesting and appealing. But then in the third week, when she enters the autumn or fall season, she starts to be more inward directed, so introspective, more wanted and needing time for herself. Is the so-called review time, when she starts seeing that the things that were interesting and she was enthusiastic for 2 weeks earlier, nowadays she starts seeing the other side. So she sees the not just the pros but the cons, right? And so she starts saying more no's. So she's much less available, much less social, much more critical. And then when she enters the fourth week, which is her winter time, which is the week when she starts bleeding, and she becomes really like one feels in winter. You want to be indoors, possibly under a blanket, and in front of the fire. to keep warm.
Yeah.
So this reflects an intention to be more, even more, going more inward and more interested in spending time alone, maybe to meditate, maybe to connect with the spiritual world, being more psychic and more dreaming. And so, maybe social and family life is not as important for her as it was during her spring or her summer. So this is, in a nutshell, what a woman goes through every month. So you can see that actually it's 4 women in one, right? So I would like to say to men out there, you think you got a partner, you got a woman. Actually, no. With the price of 1, you got 4. You just have to discover them.
Yeah, and this is very helpful stuff, Gabriella. This is educating me as well. So I'm getting a lot out of this conversation, and it's just a blessing, to be able to have a more eye opener to what's really going on. And you mentioned the summertime, the best time to get yeses. I'm going to remember that.
Well, yes, but so just to be very helpful for men, if a man is aware of these changes, when or if he has got a partner, a spouse, a girlfriend, it can be really helpful for him to understand what is coming his way, and also to be supportive. And, if you know there is simple stuff, you might not suggest to your wife or partner to go ice climbing when she's in her winter, right? Because she might be more appealed to go to the movie, or maybe to be at home, right?
Right.
Not go out on an adventure. But in a relationship, for instance, if you have if I'm still talking for men, if you have maybe some doubts, you would like to really know something about your relationship, or you would like to have her opinion about maybe stuff that you think it doesn't work very well, when your woman, wife, or partner is in her autumn, or you say fall in the States, so in the menstruating week, it's the right time to listen, because she will tell you. She might not be even aware of it, but she will tell you what is important to her, what disturbs her, what she doesn't like. So very useful, no?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Wow, man, this is great. Now, tell us a little bit about your book, the Antastic Odyssey: A New Beginning. We are thrilled to hear about that.
Okay. I wrote this book because in 2008, after coming out of a very long and acrimonious, difficult divorce, I came across this opportunity to go with a group of people to go to Antarctica. And the purpose of this trip was to face fears and limiting beliefs. So I had just trained in neuro-linguistic programming, also called NLP, and I found it very appealing and very interesting. Besides, I never thought in my life to go to a place like as far as Antarctica. So I signed up, and there I was for 9 months. I kind of tried to prepare myself, physically and mentally and emotionally for this thing. But then when I went, the unexpected happened, and I tell the story in my book, Antastic Odyssey: A New Beginning. But what actually happened to me during that trip was, of course, an adventure, but an adventure that instead of being more a physical one, for me, it was really an emotional and psychological adventure, because I was tested by nature in a way that I never thought it could happen. And My original plan was to produce a documentary, but then it didn't happen. When I came back, I didn't have all the footage I wanted, and also I didn't have, I couldn't find content. So bottom line, 3 years later, I realized that I could write a book. And so I did, and it was published in 2012. And in the book, I basically take with me the reader, and I really tell him or her what happened for me while I was down there. And it's a very honest, uncensored, recollection of the trip. And I really talk openly, as it is, as it felt, what I thought, and all the insights I had during those 2 weeks. So, yes, that's it. I invite you to read it.
Wow, amazing. Now, I find it quite fascinating in your book that you talk about losing yourself a lot. And, I come from a similar, background, similar struggle where, I have lost myself often in, many failed relationships. Did this trip really, kind to, you mentioned facing fears, but, in the book you talk about losing yourself. How does the two tie together?
Okay. I can tell you my story as a woman, okay? So from a woman perspective, but I think it might be interesting even for a man to read the book, because it might give him some insights in the psyche of a woman. Anyway, I don't talk much about the pre-trip, of what happened in my marriage and why he ended up in divorce. I don't talk about it. I mention it briefly, but that's not the purpose of the book. But during the journey there, of course, as you know, we can't just leave the luggage, right? Yes, the physical baggage, you can leave it at the airport. The emotional, psychological luggage we have, we take it with us. So, of course, I took all my baggage with me. Among
literally.
Ice and the penguins and the seals and the whales. And it was very interesting to enter this environment, which was totally hostile and different from the normal environment I've been living all my life. And it kind of really put me like... this could be a good comparison. The dark room where people used to develop films, or like in a sound studio where it's soundproof and you can really hear the deafening silence. It was like that, where everything was amplified. And so I kind of realized, because as I mentioned earlier, I've been in personal development for a long time, so it really kind of crystallized, all the things that in a way I read, I learned, I trained in, etc. But then it was in real life. So, it's a question, when one is lost, and we all experience that at times in life, I'm sure, men and women, it's the best time to stay with it, because it's when you lose yourself then you can find yourself or find those parts that you forgot about. If you're always certain, you have everything well planned all the time, it's very unlikely you're going to discover new stuff, right?
Right.
Whereas the spirit of adventure in itself, and it's definitely the way I face my life, or try to every day to face my life in that way, is really that willingness or wanting to look at things in front of you like a newborn baby, with that admiration, with goggled eyes, that to try to see what you see every day, might see it in a new way. And if we could do that every day with ourselves, we would be amazed how much we learn about ourselves on a daily basis. But it's not always that easy to do. And so for me, that trip to Antarctica, it was an opportunity to be in such a different environment where so many things started popping up for me. And it was the right maybe environment to look at them and think, oh my God, what is this? Have I always thought this? Have I always considered this aspect of my life in this way? But it's difficult to do that on a daily basis in your normal way of life.
Wow. This show is all about transformation, and in what you're talking about, and that's what it looks like in your book is, talking about a real big transformation. A lot of people in their lives go through trauma or drama. What are some of the small things they can do if they can't go to Antarctica to just find themselves again?
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, a lot of people face drama or trauma in their lives. What are some of the small things they can do to begin to...
Good question. Good question. Yeah, I think the best thing to do in any situation we might find ourselves, it's really, if we can go back to our breath and pay attention to it, it will make us present. And and when we are present, we don't escape. We don't want to ignore or run away from anything. Because when, for instance, if you go through a trauma or drama, which are very similar, sometimes we find ourselves in such a painful situation that we want to escape because we can't face it. It's almost like withholding your breath because you are afraid of breathing. Actually, if you stop and you purposely and in an aware way breathe in it, things do change and they disappear. It's never as bad as it seems. It's never as bad as it looks. And I'm saying this really out of experience. But it comes natural, it's like when you smell something you don't like, we tend to kind of close our nose. It's the same thing if we look at something we don't like, we tend to turn away our gaze somewhere else, It's easy to get distracted or diverted, and so we don't have to look at what is in front of us. But sometimes we have to. I'll give you a personal example, so maybe it might be easier and not abstract. In my marriage, there were many things that were not working, but I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start, and it just seems that everything was wrong. And so I allowed it to kind of roll on, to go on, trying to correct stuff, but up to a point. And so in a way, that process of allowing without stopping, breathing deeply, and being present, what happened on the longer scheme of things, it made everything become, a tragedy, become worse, to a point where I had to look at it because I became so estranged, so estranged from the whole thing that I felt I was afraid of dying all the time and became suicidal. So if I had looked at things earlier on when there were already the warning signs, and I stopped back then instead of thinking, which is a very female trait, this, you always hope will change, will improve, etc. It's not very positive thinking is good, but in that sense, it doesn't really help much. It's not very practical. And so what I learned out of that experience is the following. If I stay present and when something shows up in my life and I feel that I'm not confident about it, it feels wrong, I stop, I look at it, and I do my best to sort it now and then instead of ignoring it. Because it's not going to get better that further down the line, for sure.
Exactly. Wow,
So
that's very
very
powerful.
You prefer to eat a little elephant, right, rather than waiting for the elephant becoming an adult and really enormous creature.
Yeah, the whole elephant in the room thing. I love it. So man, you have totally offered some very very good advice here, and very inspiring. And I'm just in admiration right now. Now, if our guests wanted to get in touch with you, as we begin to close here, what would be the absolute best way to get in touch with you?
They can find me and get all the connection to social media, find more information about myself, find articles and videos, etc. on my website, which is called Flying Inspiration, in one word. Flying, like flying, FLYING, inspiration, like having an inspiration, .com. And they can contact me there or link to my Facebook page or LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube. But there's there are lots of tools there, like radio interviews, press articles that can be a good start, maybe just to know more about myself and my work, and they're free.
Awesome. Great. And you're doing some fantastic work here, and then the subject matter is very relevant, especially for America right now, because we're very close to having a female president, and and now that we got an understanding of the seasons of the menstrual cycle, we know what to expect now.
Well, the thing is, I really hope that Hillary Clinton might win. I don't know personally. I don't know much about her besides that she was the wife and still is of Bill Clinton. But I think it's time for the planet to have something different, okay? And
yes.
Women, we do see things in a different way. And neither better or worse, it's just different. And I think for the States, after a black president, it would be really good to have a woman president, because that it would really, the United States at the end of the day is still a big power in the world, and it would give a good sign to the rest of the world it's time to change, to transform this world in a human-friendly world, right?
Yes, right.
Human-friendly, men and women together, to have more fun rather than destroy it, right? What's the point?
Exactly.
We have nowhere to go.
We definitely got to learn how to get along and begin to collaborate more, versus being so divided and torn apart. It's shameful sometimes how the human nature is. Is there any books you would recommend, besides your book? Is there any favorite books that you read for inspiration?
Yes, yes. On my website, I actually have a page called Books, where there are links to books that I personally read, or I think they're very good tools for, if other people want to read stuff that might be helping them to discover more about themselves. So again, on the website they can find some books that are definitely good both for men and women. So
awesome. And it seems like, although you work with women, there's a lot of benefit that men can, receive, not only from reading your books, but just learning a little bit about your work. And, I commend you for that. And, we have to definitely bridge the gap between the genders. And, is there any final words of wisdom or of encouragement that you want to just leave the audience before we close out?
Yeah, I think it's the final line of my book, which is now I can't. Hang on a minute. Okay, life is a journey of the. Hang on a minute. I'm going blank. But I'm going.
It happens to me too. I can't remember anything that I wrote in my book sometimes. So don't feel bad.
I give it to you in just a little second. Because I want to quote it right. Okay. At the end of the day, I wrote it.
Yeah, exactly.
This happened to me also during. I was a guest on an event in Italy. And I just sometimes the things that are so simple and we know them so well, they just go. I don't know why. Anyway, let me tell you. Okay, life is journey of the heart. The mind is only a helper.
Wow.
And the soul.
That's powerful.
And the soul. Hang on a minute. And the soul is the adventurer. So life is the journey of the heart. The mind is only a helper, and the soul is the adventurer. This is the final line of my book, and it's because I have many. I put it during the book, during my travel log, basically all the things that I kind of became aware during the trip of. And so at the end, in the epilogue, what I done a list, like a vada mecum, something you can carry with you, and use it in life at need, when you need it. And so there are many different 22 lessons, I think, I summarized. But then for the situation that you cannot be prepared, because life will always throw at you something that is unexpected and not planned. So I kept for that the final lessons that I put. It would be very useful for any of those situations that are tricky, don't expect them to happen to you, and you don't know what to do. And so I put that, I will use this one in case. Life is a journey of the heart. The mind is only a helper, and the soul is the adventurer. If you can't tackle life, face life with that spirit, I think, and you really listen to your heart, I don't think anything really bad can happen to you. Or whatever happens, even if it might seem something terrible, it will always be for your ultimate good.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's so powerful, and we really thank you for that. And I can't agree with you more on a lot of the things you have said today. You've definitely been a blessing to the audience as well, to me too. I really appreciate you. This is probably the most informational interview that I have ever done, and you're probably one of my best guests to top the list here. And I know you're one of my best guests to top the list here, and we definitely like to have you on again, Gabriella, in the future, if you would like to take the invite.
Well, yes, I would love to, Marcus. I would really love, to have more time to spend and talk with you, to maybe share my wisdom, so that maybe it can be useful to somebody out there.
Definitely. we will definitely make it happen. And so for all of my guest audience out there, and as well as my future guests who may be tuning in, you will be able to find Gabriella's contact information as well as the recording of this interview on the transformubroadcast.com website. So transformubroadcast.com, the letter U, and the recording will be archived directly under the free radio link, where you can have access to her contact information, especially the website. Especially make sure you do go pick up a book and start reading the book, Antastic Odyssey, A New Beginning. And with that, we will close it here. To those who know the little line that I always leave you with, many blessings, peace, and love to each and every one of you guys. And let's continue to restore our power and transform our lives together. Thank you.